the market is irrational sometimes, which is a great chance for people that actually see through the noise and stack on those days where strategy is down quite a bit, Bitcoin is down quite a bit. There's a lot of value in the market, and your future self in 10 years will thank you that you stayed rational, that you stayed calm and acted as a good actor in the market, not a hectic, stressed, panicked one
For
in the market.
sure. I think that's true about anything in life, right? Like anytime you make a rash decision not based on logic but based on fear, it's usually a bad outcome that's coming your way. So it's easy for us to say like objectively sitting in our offices because some people face, major issues and they need the money for something important. And what I found unfortunate right now for a lot of people and companies. So people like you and I and our organizations that we represent, we tend to be all in on Bitcoin, not just our savings. Some of our income might be in Bitcoin. Our company's revenue is directly tied to Bitcoin, not just income wise, but like the growth of the income or the decline is directly tied to demand for Bitcoin. Like, I don't know, you don't have to say it, public on a pod, but I'm guessing it's, harder to get advertised, harder to generate revenue for your business when Bitcoin is just down and you have less momentum, fewer retail joining. Well, we have a similar problem in Arcadia Bitcoin in the sense that you can sometimes see a lot of trading volume, even in like rapidly declining Bitcoin price markets, but you generally don't get a lot of new customers when Bitcoin is tanking because people get excited by number go up, not by it going down. And so it makes it harder for us to like go out to the market and get new customers to come on board. So then we have to, try to build new products and services for our existing customers who have the conviction. This real estate product is designed for them. Can you imagine if you're sitting on 10 million, 50 million, 100 million in real estate that's illiquid, um, and you have conviction in Bitcoin and you see the Bitcoin price as it is right now, you're like, whoa, this would be the best time ever to actually stack a whole bunch of Bitcoin. I might not have a lot of cash liquidity right now, but oh, I can use this real estate that's not liquid and actually get a bunch of Bitcoin under 70,000. But see, that only works for the people with real estate and conviction around Bitcoin. So where I'm going is my I'm noticing, I think everybody experiences this who is pretty deep in Bitcoin. If you're all in on Bitcoin, like your savings in Bitcoin, maybe some of your income is in Bitcoin, your company, your the way you earn money is directly tied to Bitcoin. It's tough right now. It's really tough. Like you have to be honest. There are people depressed. There are people panicking. There are even people with a lot of conviction because they're so all in. They're not diversified. Lynn Alden is so great at talking about the value of diverse portfolio diversification, even though she's as diehard Bitcoiner as the rest of us. But she holds stocks, she holds gold. Um, I was going to say Larry Lepard is a bit like that, but he's all because he was a gold bug, but he's also pretty all in on Bitcoin from what I could tell too. So it's tough times for people who have the conviction we do have in Bitcoin because it doesn't necessarily strain your conviction on Bitcoin, but it strains your financial situation substantially. And, sometimes I have a good friend of mine who's got a spouse who doesn't really get Bitcoin at the level we do and is has been able to benefit from his conviction of Bitcoin over time, but right now is seeing the other side of it. And, he's getting pressure at home because, his whole life is tied to Bitcoin. And a lot of us are like that. So it's not the best time to be deeply convicted to Bitcoin, but just hold your breath a little longer and we'll see the other side.
Yeah, it's fun. I feel like podcasting is maybe a little bit of a delayed business model. Like because you see it probably a few months after a drawdown, that it actually has an effect on the business. That, at least that's how I see it, because Q1 was actually quite good, and now I'm slowly seeing the effects of it. So I don't know, maybe it has a delayed effect on it, but yeah, I don't know. It's actually crazy because I don't talk about that a lot, so I'll take the opportunity here. When I compared my views from last year to this year, there's a very common pattern, and I put literally all of my view data in Claude and let it analyze, because it's a lot of data that you can analyze, and you can never find those patterns just by looking at the data. You need AI to look it over. So last year, for example, I had over 10% of my videos, or roughly around 10%, were under 1,000 views, which is not bad. Like, this means like 90% of them were like above that mark. This year, so far, only one single video hit under 1,000 views, which is I think about 1% so far. And I only count podcast episodes, not like any clips or shorts or anything like that. I just podcast episodes, obviously. And the second thing I noticed is, not only it's not lower than 1K views, the base actually moves up. So it's like even a bad episode over 1-2 weeks of airing gets about 1,500 to 2,000 views just on YouTube. Plus, there's about 1,000 views coming from podcasts per episode. The Twitter and the other things, and Rumble, I don't count it. I don't really track. So I just count the podcast episodes, the podcast platforms plus YouTube. And what I've seen is there's a strong base around like 2,000 to 3,000 people when you count YouTube plus all podcast platforms that just like watch the podcast regardless. And so I've actually seen that my base and my lowest performing episodes are way higher than last year, which is funny because last year was a better year for Bitcoin. But here's the catch: I don't have the outsized videos as much as I had last year. Last year, I had multiple videos over 20,000 views. This year, I had like, I think 2 so far, or 1. Like, I think maybe the second one isn't yet exactly over. Like, but it's like a lot less. And so what I've seen so far is, in the bear market, the convicted people, the people that actually know what they're doing, they stay. And so like this audience that I have right now here is very convicted. They're very smart. They will benefit from Bitcoin the most. And then if we rip up, let's say October, November, we're hitting like 250, 300,000. I have a lot of tourists in my podcast. A lot of people are like, oh, Bitcoin is going up, let's buy some. And then Bitcoin is crashing down back to, I don't know, 90K again, after hitting like 250K. I don't think we will ever hit under 100K once we go over 200K, but that's another debate. And so they are just tourists that are coming to the podcast. So that's maybe some input from me. And yeah, obviously the advertisers, the sponsors, the partners, they're all amazing actually, and it's great that they support me so well, even in those times, and are partnering up with me. But obviously, I see it directly with Microseed, because that's also my partly my company, and they are just like the revenue is down massively from last year, even though we do way better marketing, all the things better than last year. Last year literally just started and didn't know what we were doing, but we constantly were sold out. Now we're almost sold out again because we have a new version coming out, but so I see it that it's rougher in the Bitcoin market currently. And this is why we're saying bear markets are for builders, because you have to. There's no chat. Like you have to double down. You have to rethink everything. You have to get leaner. You have to get better. Now, thankfully, podcasting is a very lean business model. Doesn't like it's just me. So you don't you don't need expensive material. I have the same camera since I started the podcast. I have the same laptop since I started the podcast. I have the same lights since I started the podcast. Even if they break down, I don't really have to replace them. I can fix it somehow otherwise also. So podcasting is a nice business model because the 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 cost of running it is very low, and so you can weather most storms as long as the host itself can live from that, which is always given, at least since I started the podcast.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, maybe the lesson learned from this, the TLDR, is we should all just start Bitcoin podcasts, or like Bitcoin and AI podcasts, or Bitcoin and Treasury podcasts, and just all be doing them from our house. So regardless of what happens to Bitcoin, and Robin will just help us get sponsors, like his own sponsors will sponsor our show. Or you could create like a mega corporation podcaster community, and so you basically spin off all these extra podcast themed shows.
We should have a Bitcoin treasury companies where all the Bitcoin podcasters are invested in, like, or not invested in, but like have a share in it. And it's literally just tracking how well Bitcoin podcasts are doing over a long run. That
Well,
would
this
be
isn't the same thing, but you know what's kind of curious is that, True North was MSTR True North,
true.
and then they were acquired by Strive. And then Strive now has a lot of the guys that were on True North or have been, part of that community, are also now part of Strive as well. So between Strive and Strategy, though, the True North guys have been very engaged.
Yeah, it's a fun one. Yeah, it's I
Matt
saw
Cole
that.
once made a joke on a pod. He said his goal was to have the most Bitcoin podcasters per, I don't know, he was creating some new, I forget what the metric was, but something like he wanted to have the treasury company with the most Bitcoin podcasters that were on the executive team or something like that. And he exaggerated it, but he was being somewhat intentional about it, because what he was saying is that, people like Ben Workman and Jeff Walton, who were regularly doing pods, including True North, that their ability to communicate the complexity of a treasury strategy and the underlying sort of value proposition of Bitcoin to large audiences is a very valuable skill set for a treasury company who has to regularly engage with the investment community and get them on board and help them understand the tools they're using, etc. He made some very good arguments, which I felt were accurate. I mean, not just obviously, if you go deeper in that, it's like there's a lot of podcasters who maybe don't have the depth of understanding of the technologies, of the financial instruments, and they just talk and they don't deeply understand those things, and then they wouldn't be good team members on a treasury company, except for just like marketing or awareness stuff. But those guys, happen to be also TradFi, from the TradFi world, and deeply understand the financial instruments and are helping to co-build them. So in that case, that could be another exit strategy for you, Robin. You could be, maybe you'll become the next executive of a treasury company who is joined from a podcast.
That's so fun. Like, because if you would have told me that just in November last year, I would have laughed you out of the room. I was like, what the heck would I do with that? Now I'm like, yeah, likelihood probably was rising from 0% to maybe 5%. I don't know. Uh, like, I'm not being in any talks with any treasury companies, but I mean, I constantly talk with people. Like I just had Matt Cole on, but like not about that specific topic. But yeah, it's an interesting gateway of like thinking, because if you think about it, podcasters are amazing communicators. They kind of have to be. Like if they're not good in communicating, they most likely are not very long in the podcast world to begin with. And so it's actually an amazing pool of talents to go for Bitcoin treasury companies. Look at all the guests and hosts and the people that are constantly speaking at conferences, like who there not only knows how to communicate but also like operate a business, who would be probably an amazing hire, especially if we now have AI. And now, if you're a good communicator, strategic thinker, you can just do shit with AI that you previously had to have an engineer, have financial analysts, have people that know technical stuff. And now the communication and marketing things are actually getting more valuable. I mean, I'm not talking about graphic designers and all of that, because like they are super replaceable now. You just say like, hey, I want a thing like that looks like that. I'm like, oh wow, I already got it, and it's so much better than writing back and forth with like a Fiverr or like a freelancer kind of a thing. And so I think the strategic angle and people that are really good in communicating from first principles are in very, very big demand. Now, I preface that with I'm biased again.
So it kind of feels like maybe this is an interview I'm doing with you about you joining our treasury company in Mexico. Do you like tacos?
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.